Hi, good evening. You're watching Breaking on CNN News 18 with me, Akanksha Swaroop. We bring you some breaking inputs as far as Article 370 of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. We're now learning that the Supreme Court is all set to pronounce a judgment on the constitutional validity of Article 370 on December 11th. This is the latest that we are bringing to you now. Remember, this entire matter, as far as the Article 370 is concerned, remained dormant for almost 3 years until this entire matter commenced again in August of 2023. It was in 2019 that the Indian government had abrogated Article 370. This is also a very significant political aspect because in the ongoing winter session at the Parliament, we've also seen Home Minister raise the entire issue, blaming the Nehru government, the Congress of the Nehruvian era, that it is responsible for the plight of Jammu and Kashmir and for terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. And Article 370 was also referred to by him. For more details, let's quickly go across to Ananya Bhatnagar. Ananya, important to highlight the argument that has been presented by the counsels of the petitioners in this entire case, which will now finally be looked upon on Monday.
Definitely a significant and a very, very important judgment coming in from the Supreme Court on Monday when it comes to, settling this whole debate about the constitutional validity of Article 370. Remember, we've heard various arguments by, the various lawyers before, the Supreme Court saying that, some were questioning the way the government actually brought in this particular amendment. But the central government pitching in that, this has changed the Kashmir Valley completely. And this has been the pitch of the central since the very beginning. So very, very clearly, the Supreme Court also, restricted the matter to only certain aspects. It was only dealing with the constitutional validity of this particular issue. And very, very clearly, some arguments were rubbed down by the Supreme Court itself. In fact, it also questioned that if at all, the whole legislative assembly has now been abolished by Article 370, then what would be its relevance? The arguments also went on into the constitutional assembly debates and various other aspects of it. But we'll have to see as to what would be the judgment, whether it would be a unanimous one, whether we would be finding a dissent in this particular case from some of the judges. But a very, very important judgment coming in from the Supreme Court, and it would be the final judgment also that would be delivered by Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul before he actually, retires on December 20.
Certainly, all eyes are going to be now fixed on Monday as far as the Apex Court is concerned. Let me quickly take a question from Tejinder Singh Sodhi also. Tejinder, let's also focus on what the political aspects have been like. When you look at parties like the National Conference or the PDP, they've made it amply clear that the Maharaja of Kashmir never gave up Kashmir's internal sovereignty to the dominion of India. A, B, they've also gone on to say that, the Reorganization Act was not even considered. That the government of India did not even wait for the Supreme Court's verdict. And we've already seen the bills being passed in the Lok Sabha yesterday.
When the National Conference and the PDP and other Kashmir-based political parties, they always maintain that the instrument of accession, which was signed by Maharaja Hari Singh, the erstwhile ruler of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir with the Union of India, his main aim to make sure that Article 370 was included in the Indian Constitution was to safeguard the special status of Jammu and Kashmir and to make sure that people from other parts of the country don't purchase land and don't settle in Jammu and Kashmir. But right. On 5th of August 2019, when Article 370 and 35A were abrogated, since then the Kashmir-based political parties, they have been saying that the entire process of the abrogation was unconstitutional because the provisions in the Constitution clearly state that only the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir has the powers to recommend to the centre about the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So these political parties, they move to the Supreme Court challenging the constitutional validity of the revocation of Article 370. So on Monday, when the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Bench of Supreme Court would pronounce its judgment on the topic, the main focus would be whether the Article 370 has been revoked following all the provisions of the Constitution, or whether the revocation has been has been followed when the constitutional validities were violated. So this would be a very interesting verdict, because if the Supreme Court maintains that all the constitutional provisions were followed when Article 370 was revoked, then there is no question that revocation of Article 370 was illegal. But if Supreme Court says that the process was unconstitutional, then it would create a big question mark about the entire process that was followed. So now the entire focus would be on Monday, what the judgment of this entire case would be. Yes.
It will be the constitutional validity of Article 370, which will come into focus. Many thanks to you, Tejinder and Ananya, for breaking down those inputs for us.